Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Laura. Today is day 6 of our cruise on board P&O's Iona on board the Northern Europe itinerary. We are in Rotterdam today after having an overnight here.
If you don't want to miss everything that we've been up to on board this cruise and on any of our future cruises, please make sure you're subscribed to our channel.
As this is our second day in Rotterdam, we decided that we weren't going to do too much, and we are actually here again in the summer on another cruise. We decided that today we would manage a lie-in, and we were right because actually we didn't get woken up by any announcements this morning. So that's a top tip for you. If you're after a lie-in, the second day in a port is a good one.
We decided to skip breakfast this morning in favour of a bit of an earlier lunch. So as usual, we met in the Keel and Cow for a drink before heading for lunch in the Olive Grove. We had pre-booked our tables in the Olive Grove early this cruise. It was really difficult for us to get a table for 8, so we ended up booking a table for 4 and 2 tables for 2. This was suggested to us by the staff on the door at the Olive Grove, so it's not something that they frowned upon, and they were able to seat us all together with that booking.
The Olive Grove is a bit of a favourite of ours on board Iona, and we always really enjoy the Mediterranean trio. This day was no exception, and we enjoyed all aspects of it except for the peppers, which we've never liked. Everybody was brought out a focaccia bread, even only a couple of people asked for one, and she just sort of said, no, I'll bring you all one, makes it easier. These looked a little bit different than they have in the past, but they were still very tasty. For my main course, I had the piri piri chicken. There's a few courses I really like in here, but I decided to go for this one. You can choose to have it with rice or fries, so I chose rice, and it was very tasty.
And for my main in the Olive Grove, I went for the spaghetti carbonara. Again, this is a dish I've had before and really enjoyed, and today it was once again very tasty. We both decided to forego dessert today because we were just a bit full up really from having the starter and the main. I didn't feel like we needed it. A few of the others on our table did treat themselves to dessert. We saw a tiramisu, one of the lemon tarts, and the chocolate cake, and they all went down pretty well.
We were starting to suspect that there was some type of illness on board by now as well, because we'd noticed an increase in hand sanitizer stations around the ship and seemed to be more people cleaning, and we had heard mention of people being sick. A couple of times we've noticed areas cordoned off where staff have been really cleaning them. So we are sort of presuming that there is definitely an illness on board.
We popped back to the cabin then to grab our coats to get off the ship because we were just going to go for a little wander, mainly in the sort of immediate port area. It was actually raining. It was only a really fine rain. One of our aunts did make the decision to stay on board and enjoy the ship being a little bit quieter, but the rest of us all got off.
As Laura said, we decided that we were just going to wander more around the local port area, so we turned right out of the port building, past where Hotel New York is, and just had a little look at some of the sites around there. If you go across the bridge, there is a water taxi station there, which is useful for people who want to get water taxis into the centre. You can also wander down a bit further, and there's lots of little restaurants that look really nice. Not that any of these were open today, but I imagine in the summer they are very buzzing.
We then headed straight back onto the ship, and again it was very easy to get through the terminal building and embark. As we got back on board and connected to the ship's Wi-Fi, we noticed there was a notification about a change in entertainment for this evening. And on the notification, it did state that due to illness, Odyssey wouldn't be performing in the theatre, and instead Charlie Blue would be performing in the theatre rather than the Sky Dome. This then led to a bit of a reshuffle on all of the entertainment around the ship, so there was lots of changes.
We took a little bit of time now to just sit and relax in Brodie's, and we played a few games of cards. If you've watched our previous Iona videos, you will know that our parents get a bit competitive about this, but I think this time I was actually the winner of it.
I did a really terrible job, and I refused to leave until I won one game. I did think at one point I was going to be there for a while, but I got there in the end.
We then headed back to the cabin, and while we were in the cabin getting ready for the evening, the captain made his usual announcement that he makes as we are about to depart the port. We then heard a very stern change in voice, where he then went on to tell everybody that there was an illness on board and that people needed to take more precautions, wash their hands more, etc., which we weren't surprised with after everything we had seen during that day.
We then went to our usual meeting place in the Keel and Cow, where we noticed there were an awful lot of staff around cleaning. There were essentially wiping down any surface that people touched, so handrails, all of the bar surfaces and all of the tables as soon as people left them. There were also no menus out on the table. Whilst we were in there, we could hear the busker playing downstairs, and it was a pretty nice atmosphere, and we did sit and enjoy that whilst waiting for our table.
Tonight we joined the virtual queue for Opal restaurant, and this took around 25 minutes. One of our cousins was very keen to see a different restaurant. When we walked to the restaurant, we then noticed that on the stairs there were sick bags, which we knew weren't to do with the sea state.
For dinner this evening, I struggled a little bit with choosing a starter, not because there wasn't anything that I liked, I just couldn't decide which one I wanted, and I think I made the worst choice out of the things that I talked about, and I chose the asparagus starter, which I didn't particularly enjoy. It was a little bit slimy, is probably how I'd describe it, and it was served as a cold starter. But then for my main, this totally made up for it, and I had the tomato and mozzarella arancini, which was really, really tasty. The only thing I would possibly say is that I wouldn't have been upset by a larger portion because it was just one arancini on the dish. For dessert then, I was very excited to choose the gooey chocolate cake, which was served with a vanilla custard. I enjoyed this dessert, but I did remark that it reminded me a little bit of school dinner chocolate cake. So that's probably why I enjoyed it. But it was tasty, and the custard was needed again to really enjoy it properly.
For my starter, I didn't really know what to expect from the dish I ordered because it was called a Thai beef salad. There wasn't very many salad ingredients involved in it. There was quite a lot of beef, so I really enjoyed it. Then, just like Laura, I had the arancini for my main. This was very tasty and I really enjoyed the sauce. For my dessert, I had passion fruit sorbet, which again was very tasty and reminded me a little bit of a Solero.
After dinner, for the first time this cruise, we headed down to the theatre. We haven't actually been in the theatre at all on this cruise because every single thing that's been on so far, bar one, we've already seen on the last Iona cruise that we were on. It is just luck of the draw that we've even had the same guest entertainers, but it has been a little bit irritating for us. So the change in schedule did work in our favour because we got to see Charlie Blue perform in the theatre with the Iona Orchestra.
Charlie Blue was on The Voice and she plays the violin as well as sings. She is extremely talented and plays a wide variety of songs. All of us really enjoyed her performance and we were amazed by how the orchestra and her managed to put that together in such a short amount of time.
After the theatre had finished, we were just looking for somewhere to have a quiet drink, so we popped into the Glass House, but they'd actually already finished serving in there, and in Brodie's karaoke was taking place, so we didn't fancy sitting in there. In fact, we couldn't get a table in there, so then we headed straight down to the Clubhouse, where the race night was actually still finishing up. We only caught the end of the race night, but it was very well received by the people that were in there. People were very enthusiastic and seemed to really enjoy it.
Something that a few of us have noticed is that over the last couple of nights, the Clubhouse appears to smell of cigarette smoke. We don't really understand where that smell is coming from because we know that nobody can smoke in the area around there, and it's just a bit of a strange smell, really. You notice it as you go in, but then it doesn't seem to be something that lingers around. We stayed in the Clubhouse for just one drink as we were aware that we had to get up early tomorrow morning because we are heading to Bruges and we wanted to make sure we made the most out of our day.
We had planned to have a main dining room breakfast tomorrow morning, and we noticed a little bit earlier in the cruise there were some tables available to book via the My Holiday page. We decided to check this and see if we could get a booking for tomorrow morning, and we were able to get a table for 8 in the Coral restaurant for 8:15 a.m, which we were very pleased about.
Today we have enjoyed a little bit more of a lazy, leisurely day. We always like a stroll around the port area as we think it's quite an interesting area to look at. and we thoroughly enjoyed the entertainment in the theatre tonight.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like and drop any questions you've got in the comments down below. Please do also make sure that you're subscribed to our channel. You can also find us on social media by searching Sisters on the Seas.